Depende.
I think Google's still listening to
I have that as well sometimes.
me. It's scary, actually. It's like I didn't say anything to it.
Okay, cool.
All right. So I want to welcome everyone to AfroFinLab. We're back again. Uh, a lot of the folks on the attendee list, you guys got emails from me letting you know that the folks that have been working on AfroFinLab are off doing other projects now. There's some great projects that are going on, most of them in the Cardano space. So I have decided to make sure that we continue to produce content and push the channel forward. They will be popping in here and there to join us to talk about their projects and then also to be panelists again. But here we are today with another episode with some great content with a great guest. And as always, we are here to make this crypto nonsense make sense. Sean, quick question for you.
Yeah.
Did you hear that sound come through the telephone ring?
No,
Okay, good, because I have my business phone connected to this, and it kind of rings through my computer, and I just want to make sure that I'm not getting ringing coming through.
didn't hear it.
All right, great. Well, today we have a new friend. I'm very happy to have on the show, Sean Hurwitz. We met in a program. It's a training program for marketing. And as soon as we found out that we shared a lot in common, a lot around cryptocurrencies, we've just been talking for the last week or so. Great conversations, great guy, solid. So I'm going to read you his bio, and then after that, we're going to get into it. Today's show is really going to be, open season on whatever it is that we want to talk about, and I think it's going to be some really fun conversation. Sean is a multi-talented musician, producer, and songwriter, originally from Israel, where he started as a session guitarist and sound engineer. He worked with all the top artists there. This inspired him to reach for even greater heights in the international music scene. Sean is passionate, energetic, and generous of spirit as a guitarist, bassist, producer, and writer. He is ever the consummate professional whose trademark attention to detail provides the perfect polish to any performance. Sean's style is crisp, precise, and has been described as exceptionally well crafted. Currently in Los Angeles, California, Sean is an outstanding musician who has had the pleasure of co-writing, producing, recording, touring, and playing with such top echelon artists as Enrique Iglesias, Smash Mouth, Jen Blossoms, Judith Hill, Anna Nalick, Chris Wallace, Faraz, and Jordy Towers. Sean, welcome to the
Yeah.
show today. I'm
Thanks, man.
really excited to have this conversation with you, and I'm certain that people who tune in will get some really good stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, exactly. No, wouldn't have it any other way. So, where do we want to go today? I know we've been talking a lot about crypto. We've been talking about finance. We've been talking about technology. We've been kind of all over the place with it. So this is your show, and wherever you want to go, we'll take it there.
Gotcha. Man, my show. Well, we started talking about NFTs, and we're gonna get there. Um, but I have to say, we started talking. So we started there, and that's something I still fully don't understand. I want to talk about NFTs a little, for what you know about it. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't, that's cool too. We can talk about it another time. Once we both familiarize ourselves with it, would love to hear more about Cardano,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And but to start with, since we started talking, I decided to get back into. I was telling you, I decided to get back into trading, short-term trading, some day, week-long trading, stuff like that. And I'm slowly getting back into it. You gave me a course to kind of refresh my memory. I got those. I've been watching that all day, and uh, and then I'm gonna join some friends that are really deep in it, and I'm looking to see what's up because, man, you know what? So I'm a real estate investor, amongst other things, and I remember going to a lecture once, uh, for real estate investors. It was kind of like a meet and greet, just meet a bunch of people in the industry and whatnot. And this guy kind of came up, and he was a real estate attorney. And he basically went on for an hour about all the different ways you could make money in the real estate
Mm.
world. And I was like, man, it just seems to me that the more you know about all the different niches and different places that you can make money in real estate, the more opportunities are there.
Mm.
And I feel after talking to you again, after years of not being, after not watching news, not looking at the financials and whatnot, I feel like, man, I really got to get on this in this crypto thing, because more than I already am. I'm already invested, but not a lot. But I really need to get my finger back on the pulse, because the more I know about where we're headed, and you mentioned how much, I'd love to hear your interpretation again, really in this forum, about how where crypto is taking us, where blockchain is taking us, why it's inevitable. I but I feel like the more I know about this now, the better off I'm going to be in the future, just because I feel like it's so, just the more I know, the more opportunities I'm going to have to make bank. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. It's powerful. It's the way that I look at it, and the exposure that I've had to the space is it's just kind of an evolution of where we are. And over the past several years, especially with technology, there's been a lot of organizations that have been disrupted. Taxis. I mean, 20, 25 years ago, you didn't, I mean, if you needed to get somewhere and you didn't have your own vehicle, you're traveling out of town or whatever, you hail a taxi. You go where you go, everything's good. And then here comes, Uber and Lyft and all of these other companies that disrupted the taxi space, and now we don't even think about taxis anymore, and they're just trying to figure out how to stay relevant. And it was one of those businesses that back then, that they said had a moat around it. There was, it was, you couldn't get in. If you weren't one of the companies that knew all of the other people, you couldn't get in, and there was really no other service that was offered that really competed with taxis, because public transportation was never really that, being able to get you where you want to go when you want to get there. Same with hospitality and hotels. Who would have ever thought that? I mean, back then it was weird. It was like, oh, you're gonna go stay over somebody else's place, with Airbnb. This idea of renting out your space so people can come and, when they're traveling, come stay. So there's all of these spaces, that are getting disrupted, and they're really changing our paradigm about how we can do things. And you said it, at the beginning here. How do you, how do you make bank? You know what I mean? And that basically speaks to a financial system that has been in place for a very long time, or at least the rails or the structure or the infrastructure of that financial system. And so that's what's being disrupted right now. So if Airbnb makes so much money, Uber makes so much money, Amazon. I used to go to Barnes and Nobles, and just love to go to Barnes and Nobles and Borders, and you know all of these retail stores when I was, younger. And then Amazon came along and just like literally crushed them. I mean, like crushed them in a way that they went out of business, disrupted that entire retail space.
Yeah.
So we're doing that with finance now. And that is really at the heart of what's going on in the cryptocurrency space.
I have a follow-up question to that. A follow-up, yeah, I guess question is, it's one of the things that myself and Josh Dorkin, a friend of mine from Bigger Pockets, I had mentioned to you.
Hmm.
We had this discussion, and he made a very good point. Uh, I'm gonna take his words and twist. We weren't talking about taxis and Airbnb, but or
Hmm.
Uber and Airbnb. I get what you're saying, but there is. I have to share his sentiments. There is no way the American government and establishment and bank system is going to let themselves go down. They will fight tooth and nail and destroy whoever they need to to make sure that they stay in control. Now, I'm not saying that blockchain and crypto isn't the future.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying there's no way they're taking out the banks. The banks might adapt.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff may be decentralized,
Mm-hmm.
but this is a sentiment that Josh had, and I agree. He
Mm-hmm.
said, yeah, blockchain, future, got it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin, chances are, in his mind, he was saying, yeah, there'll be cryptocurrency. There'll be a U.S. cryptocurrency. There'll be China cryptocurrency. Because there's no way China's going to be like, oh yeah, sure, Bitcoin, take us down. No,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's no way
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
superpowers are going to be like okay with this.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, I would say that the cab companies were once superpowers. I would say that the
They
retail.
didn't have military. I mean, I, I, I don't. I guess they were a monopoly of sorts, like you said. If they want to
Mhm.
get from A to B, you want to get from A to B, and you don't want to hop on two buses, you just call a cab. You
Right.
pay a lot more money, but you pay, but you hop on a cab. But and again, I agree
Mhm.
with what you're saying. The banks are going to be passe, right? But specifically with crypto, do you really think that they are not going to come up with their own thing to replace Bitcoin, to replace Ethereum, to replace all that stuff?
No, no, they're I just want to be careful with my words. That's not their space, right? So their space is finance. They're going to participate in that space more so from a perspective of their professional understanding of financial instruments and how they capital and how it moves society forward. So there's already people who get that, and they're either banks that are transitioning to offering or figuring out how to offer crypto products, or there are folks in financial institutions that are starting to look at crypto as a kind of a main asset class. The thing about it, Sean, is that they can't stop it. That's the whole thing, and you're right. You're right. You said they're not going to go down. The government and the banks are not going to go down. And I would switch that up a little bit, and I would say they're not going to go down without a fight. um you know and they're not supposed to go down without a fight, because if I'm sitting at the top of a mountain, I don't really care what you create at the bottom of the mountain. I'm at the top of the mountain, and I'm not going to let you take my place at the top of the mountain. So absolutely, I'm going to fight. The thing about this is that it's beyond them. um, they're going to fight until they can't fight anymore, and as a result, some of them will probably be around and still be able to provide additional services in conjunction with what's going on in the crypto world. But a lot of them will go down, because we won't need banks anymore. The function that a bank serves has been disrupted, because the bank basically is a ledger. It allows me to do business with you without knowing you, because that goes through the bank. Whether it's credit card companies that make sure that if you get a bad deal, that they reimburse you for it, or FDIC, the insurance the banks have on your money in the bank, those types of things. But the way that crypto is developing is, you don't need that, because the cryptocurrency or the blockchain will serve as that ledger for you, making sure that the transaction that you and I get into, that there's trust built there, that you do what you said that you were going to do, I do what I say that I was going to do, and that interaction between us, it's managed by a smart contract on the blockchain, to make sure that we're doing what we say we're going to do.
Now, what I'm hearing is it's off the books, off the government books. And there's no way, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no, correct me if I'm wrong on that end.
Hmm. Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean, if you pay me right now, you could pay me, we could exchange some sort of, I'll make a song for you
Hmm.
and you will pay me, why not, 500 Bitcoins. I'm expensive. And,
That's a
and,
hit.
a lot of money. And technically speaking, if I can pay for my food and my clothes and my books and everything with Bitcoin, the government never needs to know about it. So how are
Yeah.
they going to take their share? There's no way the government is not going to get involved. Now, right now, they may not be involved, but they're trying, because
Yes.
How are they? How is there going to be any income tax? So
Right.
remember, the income tax, property taxes, all these different things in different places pay
Yep.
for certain things that we experience in life. Who fixes this? The street, the city. How do they do
Hmm.
that? Taxes. How do they
Right.
get taxes? They know what comes into my bank. They know what comes out of my bank. If
Hmm.
we don't have if they don't have that info, how are they getting taxes? How are my streets getting fixed?
And that's the problem that they're looking to solve right now. And I mean, that really gets into a deeper question, because the fight for the future is the fight of the decentralized or centralized future. That is the fight of the future. And government institutions, as well as banking institutions and other financial institutions, are centralized. And the whole point of Bitcoin and the development of blockchain was to decentralize this power. Now, I can appreciate our government. I mean, our government has gotten us really far, and governments across the world. I mean, whether you like your government or not, there's value in organization. You know, there's value in governing. But we've seen, you know, also in recent history that uh, you know that uh, um, that the governing structures seem to sometimes do things that are not in the best interest of the people. You know, and again, you know, this is not a, you know, Democrat Republican thing, anything like that. I think when it comes to that, Democrat Republican, I think we all want the same things. I want to be able to eat. You know, I want to keep a roof over my head. I want to be able to feed my kids. I want them to, you know, gain some type of value so that they can, you know, or understanding so that they can be value as they grow in life. I would argue that pretty much all Republicans and Democrats think the same way. They just have different ideas about how to go about it. And the way that things, because, you know, honestly, I think that the government is going to be disrupted. You know, I really do. I really believe the government is going to be disrupted. And what I mean by that is that there's still going to be governing structures, but how we as the public interact with those governing structures is going to change, because right now the way it works is you have the Democrats and they have all of this stuff over here, and I don't agree with everything that they do or everything that they want to do. And then you have the Republicans. I don't agree with everything that they you know, they want to do. You know what I mean? But there's things that I do agree with. You know, what they want to do. But it's like you have to choose between these you know, these you know, kind of systems, without being able to impact kind of the smaller decisions that need to be made in order to support our community. So I think that as we move forward and as some of these blockchain solutions roll out and we get more granular about how we manage identity, how we manage you know, resources and things like that, that, and I'm just throwing this out there as an example. So maybe in the future, instead of me voting for a Democrat or Republican, I can vote specifically about something that I want to happen in my community. You know what I mean? And you might want the same thing, even though we're quote unquote in different parties. You might want the same thing to happen in your community. And then this information is in a sense aggregated together. It kind of bubbles to the top, and then as a community, we see, okay, we this is what we wanted, not this person, but this thing, and then we go about kind of fixing that thing. So I don't think that it's a bad thing that the government is going to change. And banks, you know, banks are on their way out. You know, they just are. They have to figure out how to stay relevant, but they're private institute. They're companies.
Well,
You
the
know,
question is, you know that, like you said, they're not going down without a fight. The
right?
government is not going to stop collecting money. So, which is good and bad. The way that it's bad is we don't know what the future holds. The way that it's good is there's volatility for those of us uh, that gain from that. I
Hmm.
guess it's just they're gonna come up with something, or else it's not happening.
Yeah. See, I don't believe that they're that smart.
I
I don't
believe
believe
they're
that they're
that
that smart.
powerful. I
They're,
believe
they're,
that
they're
they're that powerful.
powerful. I mean, they used to be that powerful. They used to
Eh,
be that powerful.
You know, but you know what it reminds me of? Let's take it there for a second.
Yeah.
This reminds me just a little about defunding police. It's
Hmm.
I remember, you know, the whole Black Lives
Hmm.
Matter is happening.
Hmm.
There's protests and everything, and defund the police, defund the police. And I'm looking at my wife, and we're both like, yeah, there seems to be there's a problem here that needs to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I said, I can tell you this much. There are going to be certain areas where they're going to defund the police,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're not going to have anyone to call.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to
Mm-hmm.
get rid of 10,000 officers in that state or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what we're asking for. We're asking
Mm-hmm.
for a new way of doing things. And
Mm-hmm.
if that new way means 10,000 officers got to go, well, hell yeah. Well, who
Mm-hmm.
are you going to call when your car is being vandalized,
Mm-hmm.
or you're getting carjacked, or and sure enough, I can't quote the states because I forgot it, but I did read a few articles. Fake news, real news, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. But I
Mm-hmm.
did read a few articles about a specific state where, man, I wish I could remember the details. But the point is, they got rid of a lot of officers.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, what I said would happen. I didn't go that
Mm-hmm.
far, but I was
Mm-hmm.
talking to my wife. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
crime's gonna go up. It's
Right.
gonna get bad before it gets better. Like, I'm all for reformatting and getting to a better place where you don't have a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of racists as officers with a gun and a badge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, right there
Mm-hmm.
with you.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna go through some what is it called? Growing pains. Like,
Yeah.
getting rid of a lot of money,
Yeah.
pissing off a lot of officers.
Yeah.
Even the officers that are there might be like, well, I just lost a bunch of shit. I don't even care anymore. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's breaking into a house. You
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have defunded
Mm-hmm.
the police. There's going to
Mm-hmm.
be a lot of officers that feel that way. So, and sure enough, in
Sure.
the specific thing that crime went up and people were calling
Mm-hmm.
the officers. And
Mm-hmm.
what I remember seeing in the article, I remember seeing old not newspaper, but old titles where it was like defunding the police here, blah blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah, and then the
Mm-hmm.
next one is crime goes up, and the next one is
Mm-hmm.
people crying out there's not
Mm-hmm.
enough police
Mm-hmm.
officers, and
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, dude, you're telling me all the government has to do is say, you know what, sure, decentralize, go right ahead, you take care of business, we'll be right here, let
Yeah.
us know when you're ready,
Yeah.
and trust me, things would go down real fast.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
say you don't believe you don't believe they're that smart. I believe they're that powerful. All they have to do, all the government has to do is
Mm.
say, you know what, don't worry, it's cool, do your thing.
Yeah.
You do you.
Yeah.
And
Right. You do you.
not me. All they have to,
Right.
they don't even have to do anything. They just have to say, okay, we'll back off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think there's a couple of things there, and those are good points because those are the conversations that people want to have, right? So like the whole defunding the police thing, the idea from what I gathered wasn't to defund the police. The idea was because they're police officers, but some of these departments are like militarized. You know what I mean? They're like they're police officers, which are they're supposed to keep the peace, right? But they're militarized. You know, they have the whole. You know, they got the stuff. You know, they'll blow you away, and
Oh yeah.
without So what I gathered from that is that the resources that are going towards those types of things need to go towards you know preschool. You know what I mean? Good, because I'm right now. I'm in Michigan. I grew up in Pontiac, Michigan. We're about 25 miles north of Detroit, and in this entire area, you know what I mean. The schools are horrible. They're horrible. I mean, or the schools that serve black folks. You know what I mean. Just the resources are not there for these young folks to be able to feel that they're part of society, because everybody, in my opinion, wants to add value to society. Whether it's your family or your kids or whatever. I think there's a kind of an innate something in us where we want to contribute to society, and in these areas here, the folks aren't getting the resources to be able to do that, and then they're being told, okay, I want you to go compete with the people that have all of the resources, where their parents have been done well all life, and uncles and aunts and friends and blah blah blah. So they have all of these resources around them, that help them really kind of have a head start in life. So when I hear the defund the police thing, that's kind of what I think. And honestly, I think it's silly. I think it's a conversation that needs it's a just kind of a conversation that needs to be had on a deeper level, other than, hey, the outcome of last year with the murdering of George Floyd, that means we need to defund the police. I just think the conversation needs to be more robust than that, and we really need to think about solutions so that we can get people who have been disenfranchised, back into society and competing in a way, and at least at the same starting line, with everybody else, which in my opinion would probably take damn near centuries, based on where we are now. Regarding the government and banks, institutions being able to stop Bitcoin, if you went to the president, vice president, I don't know, governor, mayor, whoever, and you're like, okay, listen, you got 1 year, 1 year. I'm gonna give you 1 year. I need you to stop the internet. You got 1 year to do it. I don't no more internet. I want it done. No more digital, no more internet, no more communication through the internet. That's what you got to do. In my opinion, they would not be able to do it. It would be a very, very difficult thing to do.
I 100% disagree. All they would have to do is give way to everyone that's trying to do all the other entities, whether they be China or Russia. And I'm speaking as someone that does not watch the news, but they're trying to take us down. It's like on a digital platform. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm coming from Israel, and in Israel, forget what side you're on. There are terrorists trying to kill you.
Oh,
That's
for
how it
sure,
is. That's a
for sure, for
reality there.
sure.
And the
Right.
reality these days, being here, and I think I picked it up from NPR. So I remember listening to a specific thing they were talking about, a specific story that they were talking about, where they were explaining that there are literally buildings filled with people, I don't remember, in the US, that their entire job, their entire reason for being is to make sure that China, Russia, the other big game, the other big uh
Economies,
yeah,
governments,
big
yeah,
the big
state
players in
actors
the
or
game.
player, yeah.
Yeah, the big players in the game don't succeed in shutting this whole country down, because it is that easy, because everything is centralized. Our banks, our lights, our water, everything is on the internet. It's all run that way. All they would have to do is shut down the internet. So really, you go to your mayor and you say, yeah, make that happen. That's not that hard. Just, as I said before, just take your hands off the reins. They'll
Yeah.
do the
So what would I totally get what you're saying, and also what you have to take in consideration, that the internet is not this thing that we're on right now. The internet is a network of computers. So if I run an internal network in my house, I have an internet basically, or I have a network of computers that share information, that have data in those computers. If I decide to create that same network with my neighbor, you know what I mean, then we have a community, which is in a sense an internet or intranet, however you want to look at it. The point is that they're networking computers. So in order for the government to be able to do that and succeed at it, they would have to deploy physical assets. There's not enough. There's just not enough.
I disagree. They wouldn't have to deploy. I'm saying all they would have to do is stop deploying the assets they're deploying now to protect us.
Oh, you
The,
mean from other actors?
yeah, from
From outside actors.
yeah,
And fair enough. I mean, there's outside actors that have. I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. I mean, if we're enemies, they're
yeah.
supposed to try to find out our vulnerabilities and attack us. That's what they kind of do. Um,
I get
it,
what you're saying, of
yeah.
course. I'm just saying that I'm saying it's not as difficult. If you said to me, by the way, your computers, in order to connect to your neighbor's computer and have that connection, need power. Yes, the internet as a concept is not going anywhere, but it won't be that hard to shut us down.
And I'm not going to disagree. Like if you're talking about like turning off power grids and things like that, the challenge with that, like thinking about it that way, is they're disincentivized to do that because they lose power. They lose power if they do that. So they have to try to gain power, or continue to gain power, with the population without losing power. If you shut down power grids, you can't move money. You can't move. You can't do anything. You know what I mean? So
Well, they shut
that's
down
not in
your
their
power
interest.
grid.
What was that?
They shut down your power grid.
Well, if they shut down my power grid in my community, I have no doubt that there's enough ingenuity in order to start to build those things in a sense from the ground up. You know what I mean? Because
Possibly, yeah. Is
the
these days, especially with solar and whatnot, yeah, of
yeah,
course.
yeah, or yeah. I mean, we'll make it work. You know, we'll be resilient enough to make it work. And the reason that I use that analogy with the internet, because it is, I think it's very. I mean, it's not hard to shut down the internet. All you got to do is go to the ISPs and be like, look, shut it down. You know what I mean? No more internet. You know.
We encounter it every few weeks. There's like, hey, what's it's not working? What's up? And you go,
Right.
you look at the map, and Spectrum's down
Yeah.
again.
Right. And you know, the internet wasn't supposed to be that way anyway. It wasn't supposed to be, you know, a few actors that were controlling our internet access, but they did that. They took over that, which is
You're,
going to
that's it basically the internet was a way to connect everyone, and then a few actors came in and
came
said,
in.
well, let me just take control. How does
Right.
that not happen with crypto?
Exactly. Which is a great point. It's a different architecture, which makes it a lot more difficult to do that. And the way that so it's you know at its very simplest, it's a ledger. It's a ledger. Bitcoin is a ledger.
Right.
It's a ledger. It's no different than Excel. You know what I mean? Or a piece of paper with two columns in it. It's a ledger. And the way that
Well,
ledger is
not Bitcoin, but what is it called? A blockchain.
uh, or so Bitcoin is considered to be both the network and the token. So
Oh,
the Bitcoin network is a ledger and it supports the Bitcoin token, which is a currency. At the end of the day, though, it's just a ledger. It's a ledger that has a robust, resilient architecture to it. And the thing about Bitcoin is you can so there are thousands of computers across the world that validating whether or not a transaction happened on that ledger. Okay, so if I send you Bitcoin, the only way that Bitcoin gets from me to you is if all of these thousands of computers that are on the network say, yeah, Sydney sent Sean some Bitcoin. You know what I mean? And until there's consensus around that, you get no Bitcoin. So that particular ledger that sits on thousands and thousands of computers across the world. If you want to destroy Bitcoin, if you want to destroy it, what you have to do is you have to find every one of those computers, every last one of them, and destroy them. Because if there's one computer that's still, working, that has the ledger on it, the latest ledger, on it, then that entire network can be spun back up again. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So the difficulty, and I mean that sincerely. You have to find, and it's home computers, it's all kinds of stuff that are running the
Or
Bitcoin
mining.
network.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And just the node itself. You don't have to be a miner to download the node. They would have to find all of these computers. I mean, wallets or nodes. I mean, there's this is a bunch, and destroy them. So the difficulty in being able to do that, in my opinion, is beyond the capability of those who are in power right now.
I understand.
Yeah,
I'm not going to disagree with that. That sounds like quite the challenge.
yeah,
Um, but
they're gonna try. I do
no,
believe
it's not
that.
give it a try. It's they'll find a way not to take it down, but to make it their own. Um,
Yeah,
and then again, I wasn't saying they're taking away Bitcoin. I'm just saying that as everyone's investing in Bitcoin, what happens when they come out with the US cryptocurrency? Why
yeah,
wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they say, you know what? We believe in all Americans and we want to pay everyone. So we're
yep,
getting everyone an upgrade on their computer, and we want to start. We want everyone where our crypto is going to be better. It's going to be U.S. made. Make America great again. Let's do this. Everyone, black,
right,
white, Latinos, whatever.
right. Let's
Everyone,
get together and be
let's
a
get
happy
together
family.
and make the U.S. coin. And
Right.
Bitcoin goes. Psh. Why?
Yeah,
Because now you have millions and millions and millions of computers doing the same thing easier. I
yeah,
wouldn't put it past them to not come up with a better idea.
yeah,
As you said in our talks, and I can see it, we're at infancy.
Yeah.
Bitcoin,
Yeah.
Ethereum, Cardano, if I'm saying
Yeah.
Cardano,
Yep.
right?
That's right.
None of them have the perfect solution yet. We're
Right.
at the infancy of this. You're
Yes.
telling me you don't think that the people that just put a vehicle on Mars, you don't think we can come up, we, the government, can
Yeah.
come up with a few people that can make it even better
Yeah.
and put the money behind it to make it better? I mean,
Yeah. I don't. I don't because it's a social contract, and you can't force that. That's something that happens as a result of people kind of agreeing to things. Number one. Number two. And I have this conversation because I'm in finance, and I sell financial instruments, and I talk to folks that I'm working with, and I say, I remember, I'm old enough to remember when, I paid, 25, 35 cents for a candy bar. You go to the store today, it's $1.35. And the reason that it's $1.35 is because the federal government gets to print money, and they have a problem with it. It's like a a bad habit that they can't seem to get out of. You know what I mean? So when they print money, that means that the value of your money goes down. So candy bars that cost $1.25 today don't cost $1.25 because it costs more to make chocolate, or put some caramel in it and some nuts in it. You know what I mean? It's because the value of your dollar went down. It now takes $1.25 in order to purchase that candy bar. So one of the features of Bitcoin is that it's deflationary, so you can't print anymore. And you're absolutely right. The federal government they're already doing it. It's not even a secret. They're doing it. And it's going to be valuable, though. I think that people are kind of looking at it in maybe not the right way. Because the federal, the central bank, basically, because it'll likely be the Federal Reserve that manages monetary policy. They're going to have a digital token, and what that digital token is going to allow them to do is target solutions. You know what I mean? So like right now, the way that they can fix things is with these really big blunt instruments. We're going to lower interest rates, or we're going to do quantitative easing. And it kind of, it's a blunt instrument, and it doesn't allow people who are really really smart people who really understand macro economies and things like that, and having economies at full work, and all of those types of things. They're going to be able to target those things and give incentives for certain people to do certain things, giving incentives for people to maybe not save and put money in the economy. Like if and this was used as an example before in one of the this was actually on Real Vision, and it was like, if the central government sends out money to people, and like, look, I'm going to send out $1,000, but you can only have it if you spend it within the next 48 hours.
a
You know what I
stimulus.
mean? It's a stimulus, right? So people will go out and they will flood the market with, they will stimulate the market. You know what I mean? So they're going to have those type of instruments to be able to target the economy in a way to be able to, and I don't believe that they're nefarious, like the people that are working at, in those places. I believe that they went to school, they're economists, they kind of think about this stuff, and they want to have the instruments that they can have in order to keep things, keep things moving forward. But with Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies, a government token is not a cryptocurrency, because a cryptocurrency has certain features to it. You know what I mean? And specifically, like with Bitcoin, number one, you can't make anymore. Number two, it's not centralized. So anything that comes out of the central government is centralized. It's just not, it's dollar. It's just not dollars. It's just digital, which we have that already. We have credit cards and or debit cards, and it's just numbers going back and forth right now in the bank. Nobody uses cash. Very few people use cash. So Bitcoin is a different beast, and it basically, what it does is it gives you kind of the power of, in a sense, being your own like bank, and being able to interact in a marketplace without having a kind of a mediary in between the transactions that you want to facilitate between people that don't necessarily know each other. So it's just a kind of a different thing, and I do believe that both of them will coexist. And the more that people gain power, the more that we'll be able to, because our government is our government. Like we elect the government. You know what I mean? It's like it's ours. It's like it's mine. You know what I mean? Right. It's they're supposed to be serving us and
Right.
our needs and where we want to go as society. Unfortunately, in today's time, this is on both sides of the aisle. They're just it's a lot of shit. It's just people who got elected, not even necessarily smart people, got elected. They're in office now, and they get to kind of do what they want to do. And you have lobbyists that come and say, hey, do this and we'll do that, or whatever it might be. So the more that we can get people out of the way, and the more that we can get back to a more pure marketplace, which is a Republican idea, which I agree with. You know what I mean? I think the more we can start to, because it's all about progress, the more that we can kind of accelerate progress and kind of get a better idea of what, why the heck we're on this planet, what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, I don't think I understand everything you're saying. I don't think we have an answer yet about what's going to happen. I get that crypto, Bitcoin specifically, or decentralized tokens
Hmm.
have a part in the world that will be different than the centralized tokens.
Hmm.
However, I don't know if the decentralized token will keep their worth when the centralized tokens come out, because
Hmm.
as you said, all it takes is a
Hmm.
stimulus. All they got to
Yep.
do is print out $1.9 billion, give it out to the American people,
1.9.
say go spend the money because
It's
we need to
real.
stimulate the economy. So i'm
Yeah.
not i'm not an economist, although I did study it and venture into it a bit, but I'm not an economist. I don't
Hmm.
understand that world too much, but
Hmm.
they have a lot of power. And
Yeah.
again, I'm not saying they're smart,
It's
they're powerful.
inflationary though, Sean. That's the one thing. That's one important thing.
I'm with you, but they've
Yeah.
made it so far. It's 2021. We're
Yeah.
still worldwide, businesses coming and going. You're a tech guy.
Yep.
Tech companies, tech organizations have come and gone and come again and gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, having centralized money hasn't stopped us. We've done what we can with that. Is
Yep.
decentralized money better?
Yep.
Possibly,
Yep.
but
It is, and we've gotten as
yeah,
far
fair
as
enough.
we can go with centralized money. We can't go any further. We've reached, just like you and I were talking about this. We reached where the barter system could take you as far as developing a society. That's just, today, the barter system is still a good system in small groups. You know what I mean? It's a great system, but it's not sufficient to manage a complex society, to the extent, the one that we have today. And we've reached a new place where the current centralized system is just not sufficient, to where we're going. And there's we're about to bring new actors into the finance system, and very few people talk about this, but I see it happening. Robots will be negotiating deals, and that's a whole other kind of new actors that we're bringing into our current financial system. And the way that our current financial system works, that it's not sufficient to be able to support like where we're going. And these technologies are not technologies that are coming; they're here. So it's just a matter of bringing them, into alignment. But all of these things are working together. So it's not just crypto. It's crypto. It's AI. It's robotics. It's augmented reality. It's all of this stuff.
So you're saying I just did a video on my YouTube with Rob Flitton, a friend of mine who's an amazing negotiator, and really we talk about negotiating, and really what we should be talking about is how to negotiate with a robot.
Um, how to negotiate with a robot. So I don't think it'll be robots probably negotiating with robots for the most
You're
part.
saying?
And what was that?
What will it be?
Yeah, it'll be robots negotiating with robots. It'll be networks negotiating with other networks. I think honestly, I think the question that we need to be asking, which is the one that we've kind of asked before. I think we forgot about it. Is like, who are we? Why are we here? And what how do we honestly, how do we ascend? You know what I mean? How do we become what we know at a deep level we are? And some of these things that kind of have distracted us over time, like money, and money is valuable. I mean, it is, it's valuable in a lot of different ways. But money will always be a creation of man. You know what I mean? It's our creation, that we pull together in order to structure our societies in a way where we can continue to grow and develop. So I think that those are the questions that we don't ask anymore. Like, who are we? What is love? How do we love? All of that kind of spiritual stuff that was in a sense co-opted by Christianity and all of our religions. And we kind of stopped asking those important questions, and we just kind of gave those solutions over to the religions that we adhere to. So I think that's what's happening more so, because we're going to have more free time. People are not going to have to, it's not going to be, get up and work for 80 hours and, make it happen and, succeed. It's not going to be a problem in the future. Money is not going to be a problem. The problem for most people is going to be like, okay, um, what do I do with myself? What is, what is this? You know what I mean? Because you're not going to worry for like, oh, I need to eat or I need shelter or those types of things. Those things are going to be handled. And then there are going to be some people that think that money is about getting a new fast car or whatever. You know what I mean? Some stuff. You know what I mean? But the questions that we should be asking are much deeper questions about who we are. I mean, that stuff happened last year with George Floyd, which is another one of those moments where we that's why it kind of went around the world the way that it did. Everybody saw that and was like, what what that just happened, really? And like who am I? What what is this? You know what I mean? And I really think that those are the questions that we should be thinking about, because the other stuff is going to get taken care of.
Well, that definitely sounds like a deep conversation to have, on another
Yeah.
on another podcast with
Another.
someone that's very
Right.
spiritual. But
Yeah.
let's flip it back to, let me ask you a few questions about crypto.
Hmm.
I'll mention a few of them. One of them is, please explain to me again, how is it that only 21 million, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken, bitcoins can be made? Um,
Hmm.
how is it that they won't be able to make any more?
Hmm.
And I believe we're at 19 point something million of that. What happens when we hit the 21 million?
Hmm. Hmm.
What
Hmm.
happens to that crypto? How much is it going to jump up in your estimate? And then I'm curious about NFT. I found out
Hmm.
is based on Ethereum tech. You mentioned to me that Cardano is
Hmm.
Ethereum tech already taken care of.
Hmm.
So please, let's go through those.
Yeah. So it's architecture, really. So the 21 million is the architecture of the network. So the way that, and I don't have all of the details exactly how it works, but at the Genesis block, which is the beginning, like the beginning of the Bitcoin network, basically, there's this code that was added there, and in the code, it architected basically the growth of the network, and based on that code that sits in kind of at the Genesis block, that determines how that network is going, or can grow, where that network can grow. And now, since there's, because Bitcoin as a network is immutable. So whatever happened at the Genesis block can't be changed. If you had, if it was, the first couple of days of Bitcoin, there would probably be an opportunity for you to go in and kind of, maybe recode. And I'm not even sure if this is true, recode the Genesis block so that, there were more Bitcoin. But where we are now with this immutable network that can't be changed, I mean, technically, just pure tech, anything can be changed. But the way that it's architected, it really can't be changed. It would be a very difficult thing to change it. And then number one and number two, um, there's no incentive to change it. The network. There's a lot of game theory that's built into the network, so folks are disincentivized to attack it, to change it, to make something different. So the more miners that come online, the more that are mined, the harder it becomes to change the network. So right now, even if you wanted to attempt, number one, you wouldn't do it because you don't have the press, you don't have the history to know how to change the network, even if you were able to successfully attack it. There's no, unless you're running some like super, models in the lab that are running really well. So it's a very difficult thing to do. And today, I'm not sure what the market cap is. I'm guessing it is somewhere around 500 billion for Bitcoin. I mean, for 1 trillion for Bitcoin. So in order to attack that network, the only way that the engineers know to attack the network is with a 51% attack, which means you have to own 51% of the network before you can attempt to go back to the Genesis block and rewrite all of the code up till today to say that I have, all of the Bitcoin and you have none. You know what I mean? So it's an engineering feat to be able to do something like that. So and the more every day that it goes by, it gets harder. Basically, each day that it goes by, it gets harder to attack the network. So that's unlikely to happen. Um, as far as and then I'm sorry, what was the?
Well, there was Ethereum and Cardano,
Yep,
Ethereum being the idea, Cardano being already there.
yep.
And then we can wrap, I think we can wrap, unless you want to go on for another hour,
I'm sure
but
we
we can
could.
wrap
We
it up
could
on
easily.
what I originally started on, which is NFTs.
Yeah, yeah. So Bitcoin is think of these networks as like Windows operating system or Mac OS or iOS or Android. They're operating systems.
Mhm.
So the Bitcoin network is an operating system. The program that runs on top of the Bitcoin network is Bitcoin, which is a currency. So Ethereum is also a operating system, but it has more functionality. It's what's called Turing complete, which basically means that it's like any other programming language. You can write anything on the network. You can create anything on the network. Like the the software that was used to create Windows was Turing complete, or a lot of the software that we use nowadays is Turing complete, which means basically if you can think of it, you can code it. Um, so Ethereum is a network like Bitcoin, so it has the features of Bitcoin, with the ledger and consensus and all of those kind of things that make the Bitcoin network. What makes Ethereum different than Bitcoin is that you can write other applications other than the main application on the Bitcoin network, which is a currency. So on the Ethereum network, pretty much anything that you use now, for your music software, for it don't matter. It don't any kind of software that you can think of can be written. I mean, this is theoretically can be written on the Ethereum network. And along with the architecture of the network, you also have this component that allows you to exchange value. You know what I mean? Which is what Bitcoin allows you to do is exchange value, which kind of expands the UK use cases that you have. You can't do that really with like Windows or some of the other operating systems that we have. Um, so Ethereum was initially because Vitalik actually was a part of he was an editor for the Bitcoin magazine. So he proposed this to the Bitcoin ecosystem. They were like, we're good. We don't want to do that, you know. So he was like, okay, well, I'll go do it myself then. And so that's how Ethereum came about, which was, okay, Bitcoin is a brilliant idea, you know, solid network that's going to allow us to exchange value. But society is more complex than that. We need a language to allow us to be able to write code that allows us to a lot more flexibility to solve the problems, whether they're value problems or whatever problems in society. So that was kind of what Ethereum was. And Vitalik, I think, was very smart at the beginning. He was like, it's unsustainable to have another large proof of work network, because I know that I used to tell people, and this was maybe a year ago almost, that in order to produce a Bitcoin, you have to use like the amount of energy required to produce a Bitcoin is like the amount of energy needed to produce, like, to run a country, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's not sustainable. And so I think the guys over at Ethereum and Vitalik, I'm pretty sure, were some of the first people that were thinking about, we can't do this. We can't come out with another network. Bitcoin is going to be Bitcoin, and it's going to require the energy that it does. Bitcoin is not going to proof of stake or any other consensus mechanism. It's going to be proof of work. That's what gives it a lot of its value.
Can you explain those real quick?
Yeah, really quick. So basically, nothing has value unless you and I say it does. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. So basically, these are consensus mechanisms. So they're mechanisms that say that where a whole bunch of people get together, come to consensus to say, okay, this has value. So the Bitcoin network, the consensus mechanism that it uses is what's called proof of work, which is basically these computers that just like spin, and they're not even complex problems that they solve, but it's really looking for this specific kind of solution. And the more like firepower you throw at the solution, the more likely you can get to the solution. If you uncover the solution, you get rewarded in Bitcoin. So that's proof of work. It's just like these computers that just spin. They're spinning all the time, trying to find this number, basically trying to find this number, this specific number. And then once it finds it, it locks in, and then Bitcoin opens up, and then you get some value there. So proof of stake is a little bit different in that. So the consensus mechanism for Bitcoin is a security mechanism. So basically, that's how the network is secured by the miners. All of these thousands of computers that have to come to consensus that something happened on the network before that information is actually locked into the ledger. So it requires all of these computers to do that. And then, like with proof of stake, they took a different take on how to secure the network. And the way that they secure the network is through what's called staking. And basically what staking does is it locks up your cryptocurrency. So I'll give you a little bit of an example, based on like the 51% attack. So if there's 100 tokens in the network, okay, and we're using a proof of stake mechanism in order to secure the network, and I lock up, let's say, I don't know, there's a few people that have these tokens, and enough of those tokens are locked up in the network or staked in the network, so that there's only 25 tokens that are available in the marketplace. So 75% of the network has been secured by people locking their tokens up in the network. That leaves only 25 in the marketplace. So with 25 tokens in the marketplace, it's impossible for a 51% attack to come from the marketplace, if that makes sense, because you only have 25. In order to do the 51% attack, you need to have 51. So in order to do the 51% attack, someone would have to come to you, they would have to come to me, they would have to come to everybody else in the network that has these tokens locked up and say, hey, I got a great idea. I'm going to do a 51% attack. Let me get your tokens so that I can do this 51% attack. But I am disincentivized to give you my tokens to do the 51% attack, because that means that I'm losing value. You know what
Right.
I mean? Right. So and that's the kind of the game theory that plays into how proof of work and proof of stake work. So at the end of the day, the mechanisms are security mechanisms for making sure that the network can't be attacked. And there's the proof of work, there's the proof of stake, and then there's also some other consensus where we bring the network to consensus to something happen. There's some other consensus mechanisms out there now, and there's going to be more in the future as people continue to experiment with this technology.
So you had mentioned to me that Ethereum has proof of work, does not have proof of state.
They're transitioning to proof of stake, but I don't even know what the market cap of Ethereum is right now. The thing is that because you have some Ethereum, right? I have some Ethereum. So as the network operators, the people that are that are making changes on the network, um, you have so much value on the network that you can't just go from like proof of work to proof of stake, because there's billions of dollars at risk.
Mm.
There's billions of dollars of like real money that people have put into the network that are at risk. So it's a staged process of moving from proof of work to proof of stake. And then I saw a video today. They're gonna get there. I mean, they're almost there. They might be there now. 'Cause I saw a video today. I saw the title of the video from a person that I really trust. I listened to their information. They were like, yeah, they're pretty much there. So it's happening. Which is going to significantly increase the value of Ethereum. It's going to increase the speed, because one of the reasons that Bitcoin and Ethereum are so slow is if I send you money, before you receive that money, all of these computers have to say Sydney sent Sean money. And until that happens all across the network, then the money doesn't show up in your wallet. So
Right.
that's a much slower system than the proof of stake system. So Ethereum is there, and they're going to do well. And we talked about Cardano, and what I like about Cardano is Cardano just solved these problems in a different way. It's just a more rigorous, um, well thought out way that a Cardano approached the problem, instead of you know throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks. You know what I mean? They were like, let's sit down and reason from first principles. What is a network? What is a cryptocurrency? All of those first principle um, uh, um, ways to reason. And that's where they started. And not to mention, not only did they start from first principles, but they also engaged and involved the scientific community. So they're like, hey, we reasoned from first principles, we came up with this paper, we think it's the right way, we're going to give it to the scientific community, tear it apart. You know what I mean? Tear it apart.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's the nature of how Cardano came about, from how tokens are exchanged, to its proof of work mechanism, and then I'm sorry, proof of stake mechanism, and in the process of moving, like the network itself growing, the Cardano network itself growing, they've solved other problems too, that are very important problems to solve. Like for instance, you've heard of hard forks before, which basically the network itself like splits. You know what I mean? It's like, psh, and it's two different networks. That's why you got Bitcoin Cash, and it's a hard fork. And the reason that it's considered to be a hard fork is because the people that secure the network really have a choice on whether or not they want to go with Bitcoin or go with Bitcoin Cash. You know what I mean? Because they can say, you know what, we're going to stay with Bitcoin. We're not going to support, our rig or mining rig or whatever. We're not going to upgrade the software on our mining rig to support this, the split. So we're going to stay over here, and that's what happens in a hard fork. And the same the way that a network, blockchain network changes is not the way that, like, so Windows is a different kind of case. So Windows will give you new software when they come out, and it's like you just got to deal with it.
Mhm.
But like with the network, there are points where, like going from proof of work to proof of stake, there are points where the entire network has to upgrade,
Mm.
and not only does the entire network have to upgrade, but you have to get buy-in from enough of the network to even start a project. Because if you build this project and the people that run the network, the miners or whatever, or people that are staking, are like, you know what, I don't want to support that. You know what I mean?
They
Then the
destroy.
network splits. Yeah. So it's important that that those types of things are solved. And so as Cardano grew and progressed, and went through their growing pains, they weren't trying to be the first to market. They were trying to be a financial. They'll say it. They were trying to be the world's financial system. And so they went about it in that way, with the type of rigor that's needed in order to produce a financial system that can run the world. And I think they've succeeded.
Okay. So great. And I think that takes us to our last question. I will say that I don't want to get too deep into it, but unless you have an even simpler way to explain what proof of work and proof of state means, like a super simple way, don't even worry about it. But
Yeah, that was actually probably the simplest that I could get to.
it's very interesting.
Yeah,
I'll look into it.
yeah.
So the last thing is really NFT, and I guess let me ask what NFTs are exactly, but I also want
Hmm.
to know, I know they're based on Ethereum, and I get it. It's like an app on a Mac, you know. Windows came and built and then Apple came and built a Mac and said, well, you can make a Mac is better because you can make all these different things that will talk to it. In fact,
Hmm.
it's the other way
Hmm.
around. Apple are very like no one else. Where
Right.
it's
Get out of
Android,
here.
you have Android, I have Android. They're
Yeah,
like, yeah, come on, let's see what
yeah,
you got.
yeah,
Third party, let's do it.
yeah.
So NFT in a way is a third party on based on Ethereum. Um,
So an NFT is a non-fungible token. And basically what that means is it is a unique token. So when you look at money, traditional money, dollars, so $1 is $1, even if it's two, you have two different bills. It's the
mhm.
same dollar, it holds the same value, it can do the same thing, it's the same unit of account, all of those types of things. So in token world, they have tokens that are fungible tokens, because dollars are considered to be fungible. So they have fungible tokens where it's the same thing. One token is one token. It holds the same value. It doesn't matter where it's exchanged, blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing. Non-fungible tokens each have its own characteristic, its own. There's one of it. You know what I mean? So there's one of these types of tokens. And the world of non-fungible tokens is really going to help with making uh, um, um, uh, non-liquid assets more liquid, basically.
Give me an
Uh,
example. Tell
so
me how.
a painting, the Mona Lisa. If you own the Mona Lisa, it's an illiquid asset. You know what I mean? You might be able to find a buyer for it. You know what I mean, at the price that you want to get for it, but getting liquidity from the asset is a lot difficult than it might than problem than you might have getting liquidity from some other asset.
Mhm,
you know?
mhm.
So with these non-fungible tokens, what you can do is you can in a sense have a token or two or three or four tokens, or how many ever, that represent the Mona Lisa.
Okay.
Okay, and basically they take the Mona Lisa, the full value of the Mona Lisa, and they spread it out amongst these tokens. Now, once I have these tokens, okay, then once I have these tokens, then that means that I've just, in a sense, created an infrastructure for liquidating, or for creating liquidity around the Mona Lisa. So I can take those tokens. Let's just for sake of example, let's say we have the Mona Lisa. I'm using $100. Of course, the Mona Lisa is not $100, but let's say the Mona Lisa is $100. Okay, and um, 4 non-fungible tokens, in a sense, were created in order to represent that Mona Lisa. So
So,
whoever owns,
just to stop you real quick. So NFTs have to represent a specific something.
they don't. I mean, they really don't. They can be anything. I think the way that you would want to think about it is that dollars are not unique to other dollars. You know what I mean? A dollar is a dollar is a dollar is a dollar. Um, with with non-fungible items, they're unique. So whatever that item comes to represent means that it represents a unique value in some way. It could be, yeah, it could be anything. I mean, but if we're talking about kind of the value system, the money system, then yeah, they're going to represent something. But you can create an NFT and it can just sit out in the world and not represent anything and not be of any value either. And I could create an NFT today and send it to you, and it wouldn't be worth anything except my time to create it,
And it would be one of a kind.
and it would be one of a kind.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's easier for me to understand that because I'm a creator, all these
Hmm.
guitars, this is what I do
Yep.
in the studio. So when I create a song today, it's it's a song. It's one of a kind. You can make things like it.
Right.
Now, but that brings us to the next step, which is it's a digital piece. You can totally have copies of it. But we're not there yet. We're not even there yet. Hang on. We're still trying to figure out how we can explain to this guy what NFTs are in relation to the Mona Lisa. Unless you want to try a different
Yeah,
we
I think the Mona Lisa is a good example because it's a unique representation of the Mona Lisa. And we have that today. I mean, the Mona Lisa might be sitting in a museum anywhere or somewhere, but it doesn't tell you who owns that Mona Lisa. It could be the museum owner that owns that Mona Lisa, or it could be somebody else that owns the Mona Lisa that has the paperwork that says, I own the Mona Lisa and I'm going to put it in this museum to display, but it's mine. And I have the paperwork to show it. So instead of that paperwork, you have a token now. The interesting thing about having that token is that value can be exchanged on the network. So I can take that token and I can create value under it. So this token now is worth $100. Okay. So any of the networks that exist in crypto, now I can take that token and say, hey, I got this token that represents $100. Instead of holding this token, I'm going to give you the token and I want you to give me $100 in this other thing. You know what I mean? So it creates a velocity of exchange, in a sense, regarding that particular token that you couldn't have with a piece of paper.
I see. Right, which is what crypto is all about. It's all about I listened to that what was it? It was real
A Real
what's the
Vision, oh, they're
Real
awesome.
Vision. I
Yeah.
watched the conversation between
Raul Paul and I sent you trying to think who I sent.
gentleman with white hair.
Yes, I can't call his name right
Yeah.
now, but I know, yeah.
So what was I saying? Where was I? NFTs.
Yeah,
Uh,
the exchange of value, basically, and kind of this ability for the token to actually represent value exchange throughout the network.
so it's authentication. So instead of yeah, their whole thing was I can they were talking about gold, how gold is
Oh
great,
yeah,
but if I want to move $100 million of gold,
it ain't happening.
well, it'll take $250,000 to move it from point A to point B.
Yeah,
So if I wanted to take my authentication of me owning my paper authentication of me owning Mona Lisa, I would have to send it very, very carefully
right,
because anyone that has it now owns it. So
right. And the
the
value
guard,
that underpins
yeah.
it, yeah,
So it would have to be very, very carefully managed, and I would have to get it to the buyer. But
right.
now there's a digital authentication of that.
Yes,
Great.
exactly,
I
exactly.
get that.
Eh,
That's a good way.
yes, exactly. And with that digital authentication, you're now creating opportunity to like add more liquidity to it, if that makes
It's
sense.
easier to trade. It's
It's
just that
easier
much
to
easier to
trade.
trade.
Yeah. Yep. It's
Now,
easier to trade.
that I get. Well done, sir.
I think
How?
that was you, Sean. You pulled that out. Yeah.
No, no, you did a great job. I like the Mona Lisa, but I have no idea. Josh and I were talking about this, as well as another friend of mine, Jamie. We went on a hike the other day, and we were talking about how. So let's take the perfect example. About a week ago, Kings of Leon. I want to. I hope that was them. I'm pretty sure it was them. Said they're the first band ever. There was an article. In fact, why not? I'm on the computer.
Mm.
Let's just validate this. Let's
Mhm,
authenticate
mhm.
the source here. Kings, Kings of Leon NFT. Kings of Leon will be the first band to release an album as an NFT. Now, I could go read that article and possibly understand it. Before I do that, and I
Mhm.
will, can you explain that to me? What does that even mean?
Yeah, so and you know that's an interesting thing because I probably couldn't explain that because people really a lot of people use um this language in this space and really don't um you know is not in alignment with what the networks really are. So what I could say is that because that would in a sense be a unique um, uh, uh, value attached to this album that came out. You know what I mean? So that like if you and I don't even know how because I don't think we're there as far as audio technology goes where you can protect. I mean, there's some things, some creative things that you can do where you can really kind of protect music because you can just run it through through your amp and whatever and record it. Pretty easy
I mean, you
nowadays.
can do anything. It's like the
Yeah.
fact that you can't take a screenshot of certain things, but you could take another phone and take a picture of it. I mean,
Right, right, right.
so,
And
so
but those solutions are coming though. How those things are tagged and how those things are made to represent kind of the original work. That's coming. It's not here just yet, but that's coming.
well, I guess I'll have to read that article or
Yeah,
articles because I don't really understand. I mean, they want to sell as many of these as possible.
right.
And then really it's ones and zeros. When I listen to something digitally online on Spotify, unless they're not putting it out anywhere,
Yeah,
unless you have an NFT proving you purchased this album. I could
yep,
see that being a good marketing stunt. But
yep,
again, what's stopping it from being shared off of Spotify, off of Apple Music? Like
right.
someone could just have an NFT and share it with me. There,
Yeah,
now I have it. I didn't need an NFT. They just sent me the file.
right. Right.
So,
So, and there's been a lot of that in this space, and I can't say that that's what they're doing, but some of it is marketing. It's marketing ploys, and I don't know what engineering team that they have that they're working with, but this is not this technology is really intense, deep technology, and there are companies that are coming. I'm like again, I'm not saying that that's what they're doing. I'll read the article as well because I'm curious to know. But from a like a tech perspective, an NFT is a non-fungible token, which means that other tokens that are created will not have the same characteristics as that particular token.
well, yes, and to take the example that you gave, Mona Lisa, it basically is a digital authentication of authenticity. That's all it is. It's like before I had a piece of paper that
Right.
said, "Hey, I'm the owner of this, and it's the real deal. This is actually a picture that Paul McCartney signed. I have
This is the yeah.
I have proof of this. I can take this picture and this proof and go
Yes.
what's it called? The stores where you can go in and get money for
Like
stuff like that.
pawn shop
Yeah,
or
pawn
dealer
shop,
or something.
exactly.
Yeah.
You go to a
Yeah.
pawn shop
Yep.
and you can say, hey, I have this picture, I have this letter
Right.
of authentication. They look into it there, they take their time because it's a well, let's authenticate the
Right.
authentication because it can be fake.
Yep.
And there you go. The idea of the NFT is not only can you do this digitally from anywhere in the world, but the authentication hopefully cannot be fake. We don't know. We're not there yet.
Right, right.
We're assuming that it can't, and because if it can, what the hell's the point?
What's the point? And
But
this
if
has already happened. Kawhi Leonard plays basketball for the Los Angeles Clippers. His I guess it's his signature shoe. They did a pilot program with Cardano where they authenticated like his shoes. So each shoe was basically attached or authenticated to be the real deal. You know, because you look at I mean, there was a lot of you know, making fake products, whether it's Gucci, you know, Nike,
yeah,
you know, tennis shoe, you know, knockoffs, all of that kind of stuff. And there's no way for people in the marketplace to authenticate that those things exist. So this was a project that, you know, Cardano did earlier on with New Balance, to authenticate these shoes, to prove authentication of the shoe, so that you know that when you buy the shoe, whether you know, bought it from a store or you bought it off the street, that you have the real thing, you have the real Kawhi or the real Gucci or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So there's going to be a lot of uses, a lot of uses. It's really going to make um, you know, retail economy function a lot more efficiently, because there are a lot of, you know, fake products that are in the marketplace
oh yeah,
that people are paying money for, and you know, and they're, you know, for fake stuff basically. So there's going to be so much, and the cool thing about it is that we're at the beginning of it, you know, and this is with cryptocurrency, and this is with you know, NFTs or fungible tokens, because we can't know. We can just be creative, you know. It's like, you know, back in when you and I were going to get on this call, one of the analogies that that kept popping up for me was the automobile, you know. And I look back at some older you know, photos of what it was like, you know, back in the early 1900s, when the automobile was first coming out, and people were looking at people like, you are foolish, you know, because, and they showed these pictures where the automobiles were like stuck in mud. You know what I mean? You know, and the horses are just kind of like,
probably through it, no
yeah,
problem.
no problem getting through the mud, and you're here, you are in this automobile talking about, oh, this is the future, dude. And they're like, you can't even go anywhere, you're stuck in mud, what are you talking about? And the interesting thing is that the infrastructure, right, you know what I mean, the infrastructure was built to support the automobile, because the infrastructure didn't even exist at that time.
Right,
You know, so
right.
they had huge projects all across the world to build roads to support this thing called the automobile. You know, so and a lot of the people back then were like, you know, they were living in the 1900s. Everything for as far back as you could remember was done by horse, you know. And so they couldn't even imagine a world that we see today, where, you know, there's like, you know, there's it's a lot of, you know what happened with automobiles, what happened with transportation, what happened, you know, with the movement of goods and services, or goods services too, you know. They could not have imagined that. And that's kind of where I sit right now with cryptocurrency. I do know what it's doing in relationship to its disruption of the finance system, because it's already there. And I don't know if you've looked into into any DeFi projects yet, but man, these projects are off the hook, man. These guys are brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. The types of things that they're building right now, and the forward, you know, thinking creativity is just, it's crazy in my opinion. You know, so and here we are in 2021, where you can't name a place where you can go spend a Bitcoin or an Ethereum coin or a Cardano coin. Nowhere. You know what I mean? We are at the very, very beginning of this, and what the world is going to look like in 100 years as a result of this invention.
I get it. I
Yeah,
get it. And that's a wonderful note to end on, man. I mean, yeah, I like that.
yeah. I really appreciate you jumping on this with me. I love having the conversation with you. And Sean, can you tell everyone where they can find like your information, you know, website, how to get in touch with you if, you know, they want to reach out to you about anything?
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. First of all, my website is just Sean Hurwitz, SeanHurwitz.com. If you don't remember how to spell it, just look up Sean Hurwitz, Smash Mouth, Sean Hurwitz, Enrique. You can spell my name wrong, Enrique Iglesias. You can spell my name wrong, it's still going to pull me up. Right this second, my website is down. Hopefully, the new website that we just put together will be put up by maybe by the time this is up. I actually have a phone call with the developer right after this,
Cool.
or with the guy that's putting it together. But so hopefully by the time they get to it, it's there. Regardless, you can find me on Instagram or on Twitter, Sean H Music, on both of those. You can find me on YouTube. Just look up Sean Hurwitz. Trust me, I'll pop up. Apparently, there are not too many of us doing that. And on YouTube, I do a lot of having conversations like this with other people, as well as really, really short tutorials about how to play a song from Smash Mouth or Enrique that I play with, or
Cool.
up to all kinds of business things about the music industry. There's a lot of stuff there for everyone. Just the goal is to help younger musicians. I had a lot of help getting to where to my success level. Hopefully only shooting more up, going up more. But thus far, I've been very lucky and have some amazing people guide me. So I'm trying to, what is it called? Pay it forward, and
Yep.
try to
Pay it
help the next
forward.
generation, the next generations. So that's it. The stuff's up there. Find me. I'm very easy to reach. So if anyone wants to talk to me about NFTs or about music or about anything, I'm so easy to reach. Like, just,
That's awesome.
yeah, I
And I
get back
just gotta
every.
I just gotta say that that's a cool thing for anyone to do, because this guy is amazing. I've had the greatest conversations with you over the last week. I'm looking forward to seeing, how the our connection relationship, grows and flowers. It's really been fun. I do want to mention anyone who's checking out the video, of course, hit the like, subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can get notifications when we put up new videos. We're going to continue these conversations about cryptocurrency. It is the future. It's important for people to understand what's going on, because it's a wave that's coming. And if you get in front of it, the rising tide lifts all boats. Cool. All right. So I think we're good, man.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah.